Hi everyone, I'm back for another glorious day here of delivering pizzas. I've been on 3 runs today so far, and it's just about 2 o'clock, so a little busier than we've been this week, which I suppose is a good thing. Still probably not quite as busy as I would like. I'm going to scrape my car. Oh, maybe not. Okay. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit more about the channel, some of the things I'm hoping to do in the future. I want to do some more book reviews, but I also want to do maybe some music reviews and definitely some video game reviews. And I'm going to have to fiddle around. The book reviews I think will be pretty easy. I'm going to have to, although even there I may have to get some more sophisticated equipment. Although, I don't know, maybe there's a way I can do it with my phone. I'll have to just kind of play around and see what I can accomplish. The other thing I need to do that's kind of a gilt-edged priority is I need to get a new laptop. The one I have is just, God, it's awful. It's the most, I don't know, maybe somebody out there can help me understand, because again, I don't know anything about this stuff, but my last computer was a laptop, and I was only willing to consider it because, as far as processing power and storage and all that, it was about on par with the PC, with the old PC that I was replacing. So it was oh, okay, and I don't remember, it had 320 gigs of storage, I think, and 4 gigs of, RAM or whatever, I don't know. But it was, it was on par with my old PC. So it wasn't any better, but it wasn't any worse. Well, now I can't seem to find a laptop, and I've been kind of poking around, and they all have flash storage versus solid state, whatever the fuck the difference is, and all this stuff that I don't even know. But it seems like you can't buy a laptop now unless you're willing to spend an enormous amount of money that has anywhere close to the storage of my old Toshiba that I bought in 2011. And that thing died on me, and I bought this new Lenovo. It's pretending to be a 2-in-1. It really isn't. Which I don't even know, because it's supposed to be half laptop, half tablet or something. And tablet's the most baffling thing in the world to me, because nobody has ever or will ever need a tablet. Nobody has ever needed one. Nobody will ever. The only possible use that I could see for a tablet, the only possible use in my case, would be if I were to have all of my books and short stories and stuff separate from everything else, and have this separate device that didn't need a lot of memory. Then I might have a tablet. But even then, that just seems extraneous when I could just have a laptop and kind of have everything in one place, Or at least you used to be able to do that. So anyway, those are some of the things I'm kind of dinking around with at present. But I do want to get to the point where I'm doing them. I want to do definitely some more book reviews, some video game reviews, possibly some music reviews, maybe movie reviews, although I don't know, because I'm not much of a movie buff anymore. But I definitely want to expand my horizons beyond, just doing vlogs, just doing these little video vlogs. But it's going to be some time, I think, before I get there, because I've got to really work at it. I may have to get some more equipment. I certainly need to learn a little bit more about the kinds of editing and stuff that I'd have to do. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm gonna do, it's one of those, just do a little bit every day and kind of, learn a little bit every day, and maybe do some research on all the different stuff I can do with the free version of Windows Movie Maker. I haven't even thought about actually buying, real serious video editing software. Yeah, I may do that at some point, but that'd be way in the future, obviously. Because right now I'm just doing really basic stuff, and I can kind of do what I need to do with the free version of Windows Movie Maker. Although it is kind of a weird thing to me, because I don't know a whole lot about different video formats, but I don't know why I can't just film a video with my phone and then upload it directly to YouTube. Hell, I may be able to. Maybe there's a way that I can. I just haven't figured out what it is yet. So maybe going through this extra step that I don't need to go through. So I'm gonna just kind of research all that, and I'll get better at it as time goes on. do some vlogs about things that are not just me driving around delivering pizzas. That's the bulk of what I want to do, just because, you know, honestly, it's more for me than it is for anything else. It's just a way for me to clear my head and kind of begin to establish a presence. I don't know how interesting it'll be to people. The one thing that makes me think that maybe people are interested in is, you know, I think a lot of the stuff I talk about and a lot of the sort of issues that I have, I think are pretty common. I think a lot of people can relate, you know, to like just kind of just not making enough money and scraping by and thinking about what I want to do about it, and, you know, thinking about like, okay, I think I kind of want to go back to school, but in what capacity, you know, what should I, and how am I going to avoid the problems that I've had in the past? And these are problems I think that a lot of people have, and so I think a lot of people can relate. Maybe we can get a discussion going, you know, about all of these things. Might be kind of interesting. So yeah, obviously this is just the first step, and I'm going to have to expand my horizons quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know, and for now, I think it's important to just kind of be doing something every day, just to kind of be, you know, making stuff happen, even if it's not very much. I do feel, and again, I know I'm hardly alone in this, I feel completely overwhelmed by work most of the time. I really am just, I go home and I'm exhausted, and God, some days I just feel like I can't get anything done. I barely got anything done last night, a little bit, but boy, not much. You know, so it's just, it's a little tricky, and it's kind of a long road, but I think the trick is to just do it. And I do enjoy it. I mean, I think it's kind of fun, like uploading videos on YouTube, and then I can see myself and be like, oh God, I look terrible, don't I? Yeah, maybe I ought to make use of some of those treadmills at my apartment complex. Anyhow, that's it for now, because I'm back at work, but I will be back in a bit. Alrighty, hi everybody. It's getting to be sort of toward the end of the day. Business is picking up a little bit. I'm going to try not to kill anybody as I back out of this driveway. So, I can't even remember what I was talking about before. I don't suppose it matters. These vlogs are going to be kind of stream of consciousness. I think I was talking a little bit about books and some of the book reviews I wanted to do. An interesting thing has kind of happened to me lately, and that is that for the last couple of years, I've been reading more nonfiction than fiction. I still read fiction. I like fiction. But I've been reading all this nonfiction, particularly stuff about education and teaching and the school system and its status. And it's interesting to me to kind of hear all these different viewpoints and see all these different viewpoints. And what's interesting is you can compare a lot of people's opinions about what we should do systemically, and nobody can seem to agree on that stuff. But there are very few people talking about what you can do as an individual to utilize the resources that are available to you, whether they be inside or outside of school. And the people who are largely proponents of something called unschooling, which is a kind of form of homeschooling that involves being actively involved in the world. For example, if you wanted to, you know, one day you might go to the library and browse around and find books and just kind of pull books off shelves and maybe even check out a book or two and subjects you found interesting, and the next day you might go to a junkyard and buy an alternator and a starter motor and see if you can take them apart and put them back together, and the next day you might go see a really interesting exhibit at a museum and then go see a play at night. And, you know, the whole point of it is you're out in the world and you're kind of getting something from it. And a very interesting thing happens when you start thinking about school in terms of the resources that are available to you outside of school. You start thinking about the resources that are or may have been available to you inside school. And it's just kind of a fascinating thing to me that not a lot of people really take this approach. You know, not a lot of people talk about school in terms of, well, what resources are available to you there and how do you use them? So that's just kind of my little tirade. The book I'm reading right now is a book called Reign of Error, and it's by Diane Ravitch, who I read at least one of her other books, although I don't remember the title of it. And she's a strong opponent of standardized testing, merit-based pay, and charter schools. And I'm not as strong an opponent of those things as she is, but she does bring up some really good points about the way that charter schools sort of manage to divert public money into private for-profit ventures that wind up being fabulously more expensive than the public schools they're supposed to replace. And that does happen. I mean, that's definitely a thing that happens. I live in a part of the country that kind of has gone charter school crazy. There are charters everywhere now, and it's funny because there weren't when I was in school. There were a few, and of course I never knew about any of them, but they were there. It just wasn't the thing that it is now. Now they're just everywhere. Now I know people all over the place, nobody my age, but younger people that are like, yeah, I went to a charter school or I went to a private school or something, and I don't know, it's just, as far as do charter schools do any good? Yeah, I think they do. Diane Ravitch doesn't. That's not true. That's kind of a blanket statement. She just makes the point that they range all over the place. There are really, really good charter schools out there and really, really horrible charter schools out there, just as there are really, really good public schools and really, really horrible ones, So, there's that. And as far as standardized testing, I completely agree with her. I've always thought standardized testing and merit-based pay are just a complete waste of time. There's this weird idea that education is such a hard thing to define, and so there's a lot of people that want to try and define it, and have metrics, like Michelle Rhee is one of these people, and again, she brings up some good points, I guess, but it's how do we judge how well our students are doing? Well, it's not a perfect measure, but standardized tests. I sort of don't agree with that, but I guess I can see why some people find it appealing. But really, most standardized tests, I think, are just kind of a waste of time. I mean, the test doesn't really give you a good grasp of what... It doesn't, give you a good grasp of what you've learned. I guess it does, if nothing else, it tells you how well you perform on standardized tests. So I guess there's that, but... Yeah, by and large, I don't feel like education is kind of a weird cryptic thing that you can't define, and so I guess I agree with her on the standardized test thing, because I just don't know, when you start talking about merit-based pay and what is a good teacher? Well, I don't know, what is a good teacher? What makes a good teacher? So that's kind of a thing that I've been reading, and it's interesting. And part of what prompted me to read it is I had just recently read this book called, and I don't remember the author, it's a book called Public School, Public Menace. And what's interesting about this book is, this is a guy that favors privatization, and he makes a lot of really interesting points. Some good, some bad, I don't know. There's kind of this weird perception, or there seems to be, on the part of the privatization movement, that if the whole thing were just, there were no public schools, everybody just kind of paid for their own kids' education, and, there were lots of little private schools, and maybe some of them were really specialized, and some of them were really general, and, and you could kind of pick and choose, and they have this idea that there'd be this, vibrant free market that everybody could, and you'd have lots of choice, and there'd be lots of different kinds of schools to accommodate different needs and all kinds of things, and it's a really wonderful idea in theory. It's just never ever happened in practice. I mean, the truth is more kids have more choices now than they ever have, so, the private schools have never really, and, again, not to say there aren't some really great private schools, but they've never really done what a lot of their proponents seem to say. So there it is. And that kind of brings me back to the unschooling thing, because I kind of like the idea that, you just look at it in terms of well, okay, here's the charter schools, there's some private schools, there's public schools, what resources are available, how can I use them, how can I solve whatever problems I'm having, And it seems like such a straightforward, I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple, you know what I mean? It's like, you just start asking yourself real simple, fundamental questions like that. Like, okay, one of the problems I had as a student was that I had to just live with decisions that were made by people who don't, you know, like teachers, administrators, school board members, that don't have to live with the consequences of the decisions they've made. And I believed then and believe now students should have greater say in the decision-making processes. And what nobody bothered to point out to me was that while a lot of the things that I would personally put in place to make that happen aren't there are a lot of things that they're not quite perfect or what I would have them be, but there are a lot of things that are there. You know, like a lot of districts have meetings that are open to the public, and, you know, students are more than welcome to attend and say, you know, here's what I think, here's my gripe. You know, obviously you can do things like write opinion pieces in your school newspaper or local newspapers, or you know, you can get petitions going. I know some students that did that recently at a high school. They just, you know, there was a provision in the dress code they didn't like, and they got a petition going, and they actually got it changed. I mean, you know, as the administration just kind of went, you know, like, I guess we see your point. So anyway, I'm back at work now, so I guess I'm going to stop ranting, and I'm going to try not kill anybody's car. Wow, that's nice and tight, isn't it? All right. Anyhow, I will probably be back at some point. All right, I'm back, and this is pretty much it for the day. I'm off work. I stopped by Noodles and Company, so I have some noodles. So that's going to be dinner. I think I'll eat dinner while I work on getting this video uploaded. And let's see if I can get out of here without dying and or getting other people killed. This is a fun little intersection right here. Alright. We're okay here. Alrighty. So, yeah. Tomorrow is Stephen King Day. Tomorrow Stephen King's in town. I'm going to go see him. It'll be a lot of fun. I wonder what it's like for somebody like Stephen King, who's not just an author, but he's also kind of a celebrity. And I guess I don't know this for certain, but it strikes me that he probably has a lot of the same kind of celebrity problems. Like, I don't think he goes out much, you know, because he would be recognized and people would be like, oh, you're Stephen King, I want your autograph. And like, well, I'm grocery shopping, leave me alone. So, yeah, I don't know if, I don't know. I wonder what that would be like to just not be able to do the sort of normal things, you know, like not be able to go to a library or a, you know, or a museum or a play or a ballet or something, you know, to not be able to just go to a bar and have a beer without everybody being like, oh, look who it is, you know, like, it sounds nuts, but that thought terrifies me, I say, as I record videos on YouTube for all to see. But it really does. I mean, it really horrifies me. And I wonder if it's like that for him, and I wonder how he feels about it. I think it'd be neat to be an anonymous author, and you know, just I really, like, back in the day, I would have had a pen name. I would have, you know, I would have, if I could have, like, you know, gotten published and made a lot of money under some pen name so nobody knew who I was. God, that would be wonderful. But I think, you know, in the era of the internet and all that, it's pointless. I mean, you know, nothing's private anymore. People know who you are, and they know where you are. And I don't know. What would that be like? That'd be really hard for me. Sorry, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it'd really be a hard thing for me. As a writer myself, I don't know what idea terrifies me more. Toiling in obscurity for all my life. Nobody ever reading my books. Nobody ever caring about my books. Or, you know, getting really rich and famous like Stephen King to the point where I can't even go outside anymore. I really don't know which idea terrifies me more. I guess there's a third possibility, which is I do get published and people read my books and they hate them. you know, so I'm not totally in obscurity. People know who I am, and they're like, oh, yeah, Jesus Christ, that guy. I guess there's at least that third possibility, so things are looking up. There's definitely more than one possibility. Yay, all right. It's a terrifying thing to me, and I don't know why, you know, just the thought of people reading my work, seeing it, critiquing it. I think because I know people that are genuinely good writers. I mean, really excellent with, I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they are able to sort of, you know, do these sort of wonderful descriptions and weave a narrative into it and give such a perfect, I don't know, get so into a character's head and really, it's such a difficult thing to do, you know. But yeah, I know people that can do it, and it's kind of amazing. It's sort of like magic when you read their work, you know. I think Bradbury was one of those people. I think Bradbury was kind of this really amazing, just the way he could use the language, and he wasn't like a complicated writer, you know. He wasn't like necessarily a writer who used a lot of big words or whatever, but he just, God, he could really put you in a scene and really make you feel what he wanted you to feel through his characters. I don't know, it's kind of incredible. And I don't know, I mean, I think on the other hand, on the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, you get somebody like Twain who's kind of straightforward and doesn't take himself too seriously. He's kind of a screwball, but on the other hand, he really does manage to say something sort of profound about us, at least some of the time, about our society. I mean, you know, certainly The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the great American novel, although I actually like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer better, you know. I don't know why. There's something about just, there's a whole chapter in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer where Tom is in church and he's got this, he's got this cockroach in a box. He's like captured this cockroach. He's like, you know, playing with it, and of course it gets loose, and you know. So yeah, I don't know, that kind of stuff is just wonderful. God, does anybody remember that Tom and Huck, that, you know, I think it was a Disney movie with Brad Renfro and Jonathan Taylor Thomas? Anybody remember that? That was such a long time ago. That's one of those movies I used to have on video, and just I'd pull it out every so often and watch it. It wasn't like an excellent movie or anything, but it's kind of a good little piece of 90s nostalgia if you ever get in the mood. Oh well. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because sometimes I'll wax nostalgic about the 90s, but I gotta tell you, by and large, the 90s were not a wonderful time for me, so it's interesting. Somebody made the point now, like, kids have 90s parties, and I'm just like, why? You know, it wasn't like the 60s. The 60s, I mean, stuff was happening in the 60s. Stuff was going on. It was about something. You know, the 90s is just like, look, it's a video cassette. Like, all right, you know. Look, it's a tape player. Okay, you know. Let's all get together and watch Seinfeld. Well, okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense to me, I guess. But, well, you know, the 90s were not, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk more about this at some future date, but in a lot of ways I feel like my generation completely failed the current one. God, I wonder if my parents' generation ever feel that way. I don't think so. I don't know. But I know that's how I very often feel. And like I said, I'll talk more about that, but it's not going to be today because I'm home, and I gotta get up to my apartment, get this video uploaded, and most importantly of all, I've got to eat. So, I will see you guys, not tomorrow because I'm off, so probably Saturday.